In June of 2015, comic book company Boom Studios acquired the license to make Power Rangers comics and would start releasing them in the beginning of 2016. It soon spiraled into a huge subsection of the Power Rangers brand, introduced new concepts that would factor into other parts of the franchise, and make lots of cash in the process, with certain issues selling out and require multiple printings to please the consumers. I'm a big Power Rangers fan, but I think the Zordon era has aged pretty poorly, especially MMPR and Zeo, but thankfully the comics decided to take the core concept of classic Power Rangers and just set it in the modern day. That's a solid concept, but did they succeed? Yes, but it's a bit more complicated than that. Today's analysis will focus on Kyle Higgins' run on the book from issues 0 to 30, but I do have plans to talk about the other comics later. As for why it starts at issue 0, usually issue 0s are just fancy yet unnecessary backstory issues. But this issue 0 is the actual start of the book, though if you're reading the volumes, issue 0 is in volume 1, so this mini tangent was for nothing. The book stars the MMPR Rangers right after Tommy joins the team, with the early issues focusing on establishing the modern versions of these classic characters, but things start to get nuts when a cool new foe called the Black Dragon appears and goes unga bunga on the Rangers, even temporarily cutting off their powers from the Morphin grid. This leads to everyone using Tommy's powers to temporarily become Green Power Rangers themselves, and I know it's supposed to be a moment where everyone trusts Tommy since throughout the book he's been struggling with accepting his redemption, but I can't help but see this as another way to praise Tommy as the best Power Ranger ever, something I've grown really sick of over the past few years in Power Rangers content. Though this might have been intentional, as in the aftermath, Billy and Tommy get transported to a different world. The world of the Coinless. The world where an evil Tommy called Lord Draken rules all. This is where I think the book finds its footing. As well, yes, it initially seems like more Tommy worship, I think it's a bit more than that. To me, Lord Draken starts off as a meta-critique of the overexposure effect Tommy has gotten to the detriment of the rest of the Power Rangers brand. I like to think of Draken as a dark future for the franchise if the Tommy worship got out of hand, where he's the only one standing in the world where the rest of the Rangers have to scrounge for survival, but ultimately die off into obscurity. This can even be traced to his design, where it's an evil fusion of his two most popular forms, the Green and White Rangers. We even learn later on that he's an entitled brat with a god complex, which doesn't make him sympathetic, but it sure makes him interesting to analyze from all sorts of perspectives. After Billy and Tommy escape the world of the Coinless, the next story arc is about Grace Sterling and her connections to Zordon. You see, in 1969, Zordon made a team of Power Rangers to fight a villain on the moon, but most of them were killed and one of the survivors was Grace Sterling. This led Grace to be distrustful of anything Ranger related and also helped influence the creation of her own company, Promethea. I like this backstory addition a lot, as not only does it help the TV and comic universes stand apart with their own identity, it's a well done story that delves into some heavier themes of trauma and trust while still keeping the Power Rangers feel. As a side note, I think I like this storyline a bit more than when I initially read it because of what the newer comics have done with Promethea. So kudos to Ryan Parrott, who's currently writing the Power Rangers comics, for making this really good storyline retroactively even better. Anyway, in 2018, Power Rangers as a franchise was turning 25 years old, and this comic would serve as the main way to celebrate the big anniversary while also concluding Kyle Higgins' run of the book. This event, titled Shattered Grid, is basically a DC Crisis event but with Power Rangers. As well, the characters don't interact with each other as much as other crossovers in Power Rangers, choosing to focus on the core MMPR team and a handful of extra Ranger characters from other seasons. The scale of the event is clearly seen in the story and visual callbacks to past seasons. Though for me, the anniversary stuff is just icing on the cake, as I prefer Shattered Grid as the finale to Kyle Higgins' run on the book. Yeah, there's a big battle on Corp from RPM, which is my favorite Power Ranger season, but the scenes with the main MMPR team coming to terms with losing an important member of the crew and preparing for the final fight with Draken just hit me harder since I've grown to like these characters over the course of this comic run. As for Draken's big evil scheme, he wants to take as much power from other Rangers as he can to make himself super strong for a reason explained in the Shattered Grid one-shot, which ended the story and Kyle's run on the book. So Draken wins, and it turns out his plan was to get enough power to make a universe where he's the only hero who saves the day, where everyone else is a side character, which is a pretty clear climax for the meta commentary for the Tommy worship in the Power Rangers fandom that Draken is meant to represent. Yes, Tommy is cool, but Power Rangers is a franchise with core themes of friendship and teamwork, so focusing on just one Ranger, no matter how beloved or cool they are, doesn't feel right. So if the power of friendship, Draken is defeated and the universe is mostly put back together, which ends Kyle's run on the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comics. These comics start off a bit shaky, with early issues feeling like a modern expansion of the TV show with some added fan service, before finding its stride with the Draken introduction and Promethea arcs being great stories that take liberties of the series while still making a fun and interesting story to read. Kyle Higgins set the foundation for other writers, specifically Ryan Parrott, to expand on this Power Rangers comic universe for even better stories down the road, but this man still deserves major credit for getting hardcore fans, comic fans, and even a few casual fans invested in the Power Rangers brand during some of the more shaky years of the TV show. Yeah, these stories can be a bit try-hard edgy at times, specifically with the world of the Coinless, but they still contain a sense of fun and optimism that I love Power Rangers for. Not to mention, it takes the stale MMPR TV show, which is mostly loved for nostalgia these days, and breathes new life into it. If I'm honest, I'd recommend the newer comics in this universe over these ones, but it still wouldn't hurt to start from the beginning if you're interested in what I talked about today. With all that being said, I hope you enjoyed the show, make sure to drink some water, and I'll see you later.